Okay, let's give it another minute or so. Right, indeed. Yeah, I can see only 3 people on, so I'm just wondering if we've got to wait. That's 4. Got your call. Thank you. Okay. All right, Cam. Okay, we'll make a start now then. Right. So, couple of things that I'll pick up on from Wednesday. We'll start with the one I was relatively quick to recap was the idea about turning any hand strike, fist, hand grabs, whatever it might be, turning those into elbows. So I'm going to stay kneeling close to the camera for this. Just to quickly recap what I said, and I'll talk more about the junk as well later. So if you're upright, I'm not in a fighting form, if you're upright, the structure is basically there, okay? It's where my elbows just come past my chest, but it's where my hands grasp, it's where I do the namaskaram and so on, okay? It's generally where you should feel the strongest, so, it's where you should feel like if you're holding a weight, it's the place that you probably feel the strongest, okay? So it's there. Now, up to that point, when we strike, okay, remember the key point is we don't come from the outside of our body and then turn a wide angle in. Minimum we do is if you take this thumb and put it in the fleshy part of your shoulder, not the bone, the first part where it's fleshy, okay, that's your widest tram track, okay? Try and be totally in front of the camera, so it's like that, okay? It's like that. So that's your tram track, okay? It's not even here where you're touching your shoulder. Even that, see, I get a profile with my elbow here. If I do that, it's right there. And you see why it's so important to have that relaxed shoulder, because that allows that tram track to be nice and free. There we go, here. Okay, so, and then obviously we have the center, which is just there. So there's a slight cutting of angle, but it's a very small cutting of the angle, much smaller than coming from there, right? So if you're doing a dafa, so if you're coming from here, okay, and you're coming from here, then in practice, your hands don't have to be obviously all the way back there. That's just a guide. Your hands would be here. Okay, there's your kind of like more steady posture. And then you go along that tram track. And the more close to the middle you get, the better range you get, the more power you get, and so on. And that's something you'll know about. Okay. So to turn this into an elbow, do it from the side first. Okay. So to turn this into an elbow, if I start all the way back, there's a chunk, it's there. As my hand comes here, soon as I realize I want it to turn into an elbow, all I do is collapse it and replace the hand by a point. And like I said, let's use my pencil. If you hold something in your hand, you can get that to really point out. If you haven't got something in your hand, like this there, right? The punch, you got that structure for that one. You can use this structure for that one. If you're holding something, it's more natural anyway, right? There. I'll get off my knees in a second, it's starting to hurt. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's here. So what I don't do is I don't put my hand back and swing into it. See, if I start here, do this, that's a swing. Okay. See the arc of the elbow. What I do is I try and make everything happen in this little box here. There. 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 Not that. See that? You'll feel exposed, and it's not very good structure here, but there. Okay, right there. And we'll put the rest of the structure in a second. But that's what I meant by an elbow. That's the simplest way to demonstrate that. Okay. If I was coming here, and then what I can do is the elbow up. There. Again, I'll put the structure in. It's hard because I'm sitting on my knees, but I'm just demonstrating just top off of the body. Okay. And even if I want to hit something down, what I usually think is, if I want to hit something there, is just go here. There's a chunk, hop a cut almost like you're going through the chunk, and then back down again. Now, usually you set something up to do that. Okay. Where your hands are there and you slightly go over the top and down. So it's like this. But you see, it's all happening in this distance. I'm not doing it outside of here. And then I could go down and then forward. Okay, so up, out to in, into out, into out, into out. Okay, so what I do is I cut across myself and go out. I cut across myself and go out. There. This is good if something's obviously coming from the side or something's over there. Okay, again, this structure will make sense. If you do like this, it's better if I'm holding even a pencil and do it like this. You'll see, you just feel that locks better. You can even probably see it in my arm there. So that's elbows, okay? Let's just put it into the form. So let's again practice the form. So it's about right with the aspect ratio. So you should now know generally a defensive Vahar structure, a defensive Vahar position. Okay, you're minding your own business, you're attacked. You haven't seen it coming. Okay, you haven't had a chance to maneuver and all that kind of stuff. It's upon you. It's just about to get into the trouble zone, which is here, the fist, the foot, a grab, someone coming into your face. Okay, and so you release the ground and you get your defense up inside the junk. Okay, so I'll show you postures like this. Postures like this. Okay, elbows, elbows, elbows. See, guarding low. Elbow guarding low, okay? Hand hooking as if there's a kick coming. Hand hooking. Moving right out the way. So, hooked hand and then a turn. I really want to move out the way. But generally, you got these, this. So that's good against something coming over the top, right? This. So moving out the way and trying to pierce into their, it's good against a grab, say. Okay, you can obviously release the ground as well, that we covered last time. You can release the ground and drop into this. You could release the ground, drop into this and use a forearm. You could release the ground, drop into this, use a forearm that way. Switch the feet and use it that way. Open an arm out that way. So then you start seeing the signature movements of the Vahar in terms of the way he clears past with forearms. That's what was covered last week. Okay, and then any of those clearances, I might think, actually know something. Rather than clearing now with this, I could actually use this. So I might just make up a bit of ground by shuffling forward and use my elbow instead to clear the ground. Okay, because I know my elbow is more powerful than my hand. Yeah. So that's a quick recap. And now you got the idea that when you're here and you're practicing your strikes in Vahar, top there, so that's testicle slaps, testicle grab, okay, punch to the midriff. This is the killer strike, that's a battlefield element, that's going there, okay, eye gouges, Qatari hats, okay, Earnhardt into the collarbones. So this is, remember, this is your general practice, right? A fist into the bicep, backhand punch into the area outside the forearm, a cutting straight into the wrist joint here, okay, a punch inside the bicep that way, a punch into the nutsile here. So again, we'll keep filling your head with these ideas. Kicks going through, so remember, you don't kick from the spot, you kick and slightly dig in, so that could be going through the ankle, okay. I could move out the way, catch them in this posture over there, and then say, oh yeah, I can quickly get that kick high enough into the groin if I can. I can move across, kick into the knee. I can move across, land in the L, kick into the knee. Okay. I can hunch, kick, double-handed grab, or I could use an elbow to sink them, turn. So these, we practice and keep practicing that basic vocabulary of striking. Okay, and just refine a little bit, hopefully understanding of elbows. But what I want to talk about today was a point Kunal brought up, was what's the difference in, I think we use the phrase footwork and Vahar, right? So I'm going to neaten that up. Let's call it maneuvering while you're disengaged. So I'd call that disengage mode, okay? So you're not engaged, and when you're engaged. So when you're disengaged, okay, then you don't use Vahar. You don't go into this structure. Later on, you don't go into Gurud. You don't sit in a Narsinga. It doesn't make sense to stand out before you engage and be in a posture, giving your game away. It doesn't make sense. Okay? When you're disengaged, you stay in alert and awareness mode. Okay? Not the kind of stay alert government message for COVID, but just general alert. Okay? You can hopefully see this one coming. So that's where, if you're absolutely not anticipating any danger, you're obviously like this, okay? Your normal stance. If you're anticipating danger, first thing you do is you take the reading posture straight away. So instead of looking straight at something, you start looking at things through the top of your eye slightly, okay? That gives you awareness as well, okay? But it also then readies your structure. So here, I'm just that little change there just means I'm readying myself, okay? You soften the limbs, okay? You don't want to be obviously totally upright or totally taut. You just soften the limbs a bit, okay? And you slightly get ready by getting slightly onto the balls of your feet, okay? And you make sure those knees are soft enough to bounce on, okay? Like when Jay was young, he used to do this a lot, okay? It's probably a good habit now. But those knees, they're not locked. They can move, they can bounce up and down, they can slightly turn side to side, okay? That's it. So this is just absolutely normal. This is the first stage of being ready. And then what that turns into, if you're in a situation where you think there's trouble, it's not quite sparring, but you might have to move around. The first thing to do in your maneuvering is to check that you're not going to be ambushed, even if there's trouble coming in front of you. So that's where either using the L's like this makes sense, so you can get a quick 360 panoramic view, or the pure circular 3-step. Okay, and just keeping the main target just in the corner of your eye, just so you get a nice 360 view. Okay, and you see if they follow you as well. So here you're slightly retreating and slightly coming back again. Okay, so that's the meaning of 3-step. I'm doing this with those soft legs, so I'm like here, I'm like, oh, what's up here? He's coming here, but is his mate over there? Okay, trouble's coming here, there's a door over there. This is strategizing, this is disengaged strategizing. Okay. If it really kicks off and there's multiples and I really need to start moving around, but it's still disengaged and you're still maneuvering, what you do is, it's almost like you do a version of Kabaddi. Okay, this is Mul way of doing it, not some of the ways you might have seen recently in more advanced stuff. So the Mul way of doing it is basically a version of this little military run on the balls of your feet. Okay, like this. Because what happens is you take these general movements, you slightly sink a bit more, and you go onto the balls of your feet until you're really light and bouncy. You get even bouncier. This is why we do so many squats, because we want to be really bouncy, okay? And what you want to do then is imagine, it's like a Kabaddi game, you've got people coming from each side. Your general footwork you've learned, the heel-to-heel principles, now sharpen up and get faster, okay? So this is, you're in quick evading territory. You've already sunk, so you've already got basically this posture. So your groin's back, so they can't just quickly dive in and make you drop your head like this. I forgot to mention one thing. The reason why you need a reading book posture is simple. If your head is flat and anything comes and distracts your eye, you'll always do that as your reaction. And then game over. So the reason we have our head down is to stop this reaction. Because if things come at your eyes and your heads are down, you're more likely to duck and dive, okay? Or more likely just to move your whole body like this, which is better. So you don't want to be forced to move your neck at all because your structure breaks. What you want is this reading book structure, and then protect your head by going up, down, left, right with the actual body here. So this is now your maneuvering postures. See, I got L shape here. I jumped across into an L shape here. I jumped into Disha. All this will make sense if you've covered the course. Asa Pasa, okay? Balta, Chakri, all of them come in. Okay, even the Dharmadals make sense because in this mode you can do them really quick. So this then is how we move when we do the Sanchi games. So Sanchi are the martial games. Okay, so those games are what engender these habits, and they become the first way of general maneuvering. Okay, so if it's a very low key scenario, okay, then obviously you can keep to this version of it, okay? And you're disengaged, you're trying to calm the situation down, you're trying to circumvent, avoid violence while keeping a nice awareness. If the situation's got much more dire, they're moving around, there's more than one of them, there's weapons, you need more maneuverability, you need more agility, is a better word. Then you get onto the balls of your feet, and that's when all the exercises come in. That's why we emphasize so much these areas, because you want to be quick off those feet. And the games we play are what give us that. Okay, so if you're playing the games and they're trying to touch my chest, I'm really fast at releasing the ground. Okay, but can you see the disciplines in my feet? I don't break footwork like this. And that's why you do your footwork over and over and over again. So all of a sudden I can shoot around something. I can turn. I can move around things quickly. And the other thing you'll notice is to be agile, my hands can't be out here. I can't have a fighting structure. I can't do that and be agile. So what I do with my hands is I just keep them close. And the best place to keep them is around here. That's where my center of gravity is. So I just hold on to it. Anywhere else, and it's like I'm slightly being held, pegged somewhere. So what I do is I centralize myself and I move. So I can keep my hands right here if I need to. Okay, close. So the closest thing to fighting posture is down here, which becomes Bhag later. But generally speaking, I keep my hands low. Again, if you play the games, they engender this habit, because if your hands are high in any of the Sankhya, they get grabbed. They get hit. Yeah. So it's so important to do all those basic things from what I've done in the Access course previously, because you won't make these basic mistakes. I don't put my limbs out. I put my limbs here. I say to you, if you're going to attack me, you're going to come here. Okay? I don't give you something to go and grab, hold, or bridge with. I say, no, you've got to come to me. Okay? And then I make the whole object, the whole body, very hard to track. And I make you commit deep. I say, you come here to hit me. Okay? If I move like this, you don't have to come here to hit me. You can stay there and hit me there. You can stay there and grab here. Okay? That is an absolute no-no. I don't want you to be able to engage one part of my army. Okay? The whole body, think of it as an army. That's just one part of the army. That part of the army is now separated from this part of the army. It can be chopped off. It can be grabbed. It can be manipulated. Here, it's not. Here, it's being reinforced by the army. Okay? It's in range. So again, when there'll be a good time to pick up on any of these things, all I've got to do now is define that range. What do I mean by out there you're in trouble, here you're not? Yeah? So back to the junk idea. So if you're absolutely neutral and standing upright, it's here. However, if you have a structure, this point changes relative to the structure. So if I'm neutral, it's there. But even in disengaged mode, I start to sink a bit. So if we go for this posture straight away that you've learned, look what happens to this. So just try doing this. Try not moving anything here, shoulders, elbows, arms, wrists. Let the rest of the body adjust behind these hands. And then what you'll find is this gap opens up. I use that to measure it. It's the same relative structure because now my center of gravity is here. If you've had a pole, that's where it's strongest. Here, if I took it here, once I do this with my overall structure, this is weak. This is too close on my face for the start. There. Hence, it's encoded in this posture. It's there. Vahar, which is here, okay? There, I'll get my feet into range there. Again, this is too close. So if I did this guard here, it's all scrunched up. And look, your shoulder pops up because it's scrunched up. So what you do is, where that was, you adjust it to here, which is an exercise I showed before. That's now my magic wall. See, from side on, I'm not going to protrude past that. If I do that, that can be grabbed and it can be isolated away from all these structures that could reinforce it. Here, it's where the elbow is. If you grab this here, you're going to have to deal with this structure, and this structure. There. And obviously this hand's close by, which is the most obvious thing I can do, which is reinforce this hand. But I can stay tight. So this is why inside this magic wall, anything I do in here, I know is reinforced. So in disengagement mode, whether it's here, whatever my disengagement mode is, so if I go to Bal for a second, whether it's here, okay, whether it's like this in other stuff. But generally, look, this principle, learn it now because it never breaks. It's here. All the forms have this, okay? Again, Muggs made a video about this recently where he showed you all the different structures in a quick snippet. And again, you could see the magic wall. It wasn't protruding outwards towards you, even though the structures were looking elongated. There. So now your Vahar is like this, right? It's covered. Then you say, well, what happens when you strike? Right. So, junk, defense. When you strike, you are taking a chance. And if any of you have ever heard a recording of Baba Ram Singh giving the overall strategies of Shastra Vidya, he says only strike when your eye tells you to, your intuition tells you to. Go back and listen to the recording if you can understand the Punjabi. But basically, the point is you should only strike and come out of this area for like a hudge or a kick if you are very sure of success. If you are sure that you will not be intercepted, you will not get your hand cut off. You will just not miss and hit empty air and be exposed somewhere else. So up until you feel that the strikes are available, you do not come out of your defensive wall. And then the job of your maneuvering is to get to such a point. The job of all this maneuvering is to find that position where relative to the other person, look, I can put my hand in here because that person can't intercept. Yeah. And that's obviously a very key skill that you develop over a long time in various ways. But the understanding has to be there now. What you can't do is just hold your ground and think, oh, let's go for it. Bam, 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 bam. Okay? That's just being impatient. Someone's too good, you should run away anyway and come back with a weapon. Yeah? Someone's too good, just cheat. So, disengage mode. Everything inside the chant. Maneuvering, trying to find a position. Engaged mode is they have entered your jong or just about to threaten to do it. Okay? That punch, I've seen it coming and I know it's going to come past this defensive wall over here. I have to engage. I have to move out the way, obviously, is my first priority, but I probably have to engage this person now. So what I do is I go into engagement mode. This is the footwork now for engagement mode. If we're doing Vahar, this is its engagement footwork. If I'm not in trouble, I don't use this footwork. I stay to this footwork. In trouble, I'm here again. Not engaged yet. Disengaged, engaged. Disengaged, engaged. And the whole player Shastra Vidya is how do you transition between those two things. So, 3 ways that transition can happen. Number 1, they come to you. So I'm still, and they come into my defensive wall. Number two, they're still, and I choose to go into their defensive wall. And number three, it happens dynamically. We come at each other. Okay. So only three ways. So up to now, I've been saying, imagine a punch comes here. What are you going to do? You're going to go straight into engagement mode. Hence, you're going straight into a structure. Okay. You're going to practice these techniques. So when you practice techniques, you are assuming that there was a point in time where they came at you. Okay. And for a long time, this is how you should train. Okay, they came at me. But in reality, what I'm saying is you might have to wait or force that situation by maneuvering. Why make it really easy for them to pick you off? Just make it a little bit harder. Force them to come in deep by not extending, by not being a stationary target, by being lift and light on your feet. And then when they finally do come in, then engage. And eventually, if you see the opportunity, engage them. Okay. So all I want to finish with is, before I do a recap, is let's go through some techniques where I do a transition from this open maneuvering disengagement to the engagement. Okay, so we could just have a very simple situation. It's going to kick off. You've got someone being quite brutish about it. They're not really taking a fighting form. They're just coming at you. You know it's going to kick off. They're going to invade your space. You can't get out of the way. You've got to engage them. And so you've had the footwork you've been shown lots of times before, which is come through the middle and forward. Okay. Instead of doing that and landing like this, all you're going to do is just fill the gap with an incidental strike. So I could kick them, and in that kick, move forward. And then as I land in Bahar. So if I want to engage them, I'm maneuvering, trying to find a position. I see an opening, and I go for it. I see an opening and I go for it. But at the end of that step, I'm in Bahar. What I'm not doing is in Bahar, looking for an opening and then going for it. That is really slow. Yes. So the structures don't work. I'm staying lift, nimble, moving out the way suddenly. Okay. If they're close enough to me, going straight into engagement. Okay. So engage, not just the head. You don't have to always go for the head or the body. Engage could be their limbs. They did the exact opposite of what we did. They came out the junk. They came out of their own structural area. They left a limb out here. So I moved out the way and I attacked the limb itself. I grabbed the limb and broke their structure. They planted a leg outside of their footwork structure. So I attacked that leg. They were upright, so I attacked the eyes to make them do this. They left their groin exposed, so I did a quick attack towards the groin to make them break their balance like this. And in all those scenarios, I'm doing those as I go from being out here and disengaged to in here with the full engagement, elbows, knees, grabs, pulls, and so on. So I'm just filling the gap between those two things. Okay. So now, in your practice, rather than just imagining you're still and receiving the attack, just think of them moving about a bit and suddenly attacking you, and you trying to find a better place to go in. And obviously, over time, we'll develop the science of how you do this in more detail. But what I wanted to do today was cover that basic understanding rather than leaving it for a long time to cover, so you would have an accurate idea of what how you could use what we've been doing. So I think I've had some questions, so I'm just going to look. Thank you, Kunal. So this advantage of you guys obviously been in Jakarta for a long time. So later on, what we say is the safest way to make up that difference from disengage to engage is if you can make it up whilst having 3 targets open for an attack. Okay, which obviously takes time to get to. Okay, so that you're absolutely right. the three strike minimum principle does apply. I wouldn't expect someone to be able to do it straight away. You know, you could imagine that it's something to aim for. For now, it might. All I'd say for now is, can you see a clean entry? And over time, that clean entry should involve three strikes. It's one of those things that should evolve in your understanding. I'm just checking my notes to make sure I haven't missed anything. Again, theoretical. It's definitely the type of lesson that Wednesday's follow-up with you guys would be very helpful for me and for you, I'm sure. So I'm just reading through my notes now, just to make sure I haven't missed anything. So I'm just going to recap, unless any other questions come through. So we started with how to quickly turn any strike into an elbow, which is a fundamental of the Vahar. I'll come to your question in a second. I really wanted to, I recapped what the course taught in terms of what is this agile footwork of evasive movement. The point I didn't make is in Mool, in the base layer of the art, the structures are not strict. Okay, so when we taught this in the first layer of the course, you moved out the way and did a hit or a series of hits as a set of techniques. But what we weren't doing is going into lots of detail about structure. What we're doing now is, by introducing Vahar, and this is the point of the Yuddhans, is it's the same idea, but you have a strict structure. Yeah, that's the point. It's like, you know, it's like you're not just playing just music and notes. You got this structure like a rag. You have to do it in a certain way because the structure informs it. And then, so that was the first part as a kind of like the preamble, the prerequisites. And then what we tried to go on to was clearly defining what a chunk is. You develop your understanding of it. So you understand that the point is, I don't allow myself to come out of my defensive walls and have my limbs chopped off or engaged, but I encourage the other person to do so. So they extend or do something that we wouldn't do. And I do this by keeping myself compact, but keeping myself a moving target to get them to come at me. Okay, so that's the understanding I want you to have in terms of this disengaged, engaged, either side of this chunk. Okay, you keep your discipline and you essentially wait for them to mess up. They ruin their discipline, okay, whether they know it or not. And then once there is a threat that something's coming into your chunk, you keep going. Once they come into your chunk, once you go from disengaged to engaged, once they're going to fully engage, what we are practicing at the moment is using the structure, the fighting form of Vahar. Okay. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what I want to do. And then I just said engagement can happen in three ways. They come to you, they're still, you go to them, you come at each other. Okay, so I know I've had a couple of questions there. 2.5 strikes is an overall strategy, Kunal. So 2.5 strikes, I can talk about more later. That's more what I'd call like almost like swordsmanship, the battlefield aspect of it. It does come down later, but it's when you got two people that really know what they're doing, essentially. Okay, the best way to understand 2.5 strikes now is this idea of disengaged, engaged. Okay, if we're both doing this, right, to engage, we call a 1. That's a full engagement from him, a full engagement from him. But then there's this half. That half could be a quick maneuvering to a slightly better position. It could be a quick indication which gets the person's attention. The half then makes this guy's full go in, whereas this guy misses out. That's one of the best ways for now to understand 2.5. If two of you know what you're doing, they want to fully engage you, you want to fully engage them. So what two idiots do is just do this. But what we do is we find a half so that we don't hit them in a strong position. We find a half that allows us to hit them in a weak position. Okay, watch animals fight. If they're equal, they hit each other head on. So that's 2. That's a 1 + 1. The good ones do a quick half and then do a 1 as he does his 1, and that's why it adds up to 2.5. Okay, quick maths lesson there. Quite nice. See if I had anything now. Yeah, the access course for people are asking. I can't remember what year it was. I'll have to go back and find exactly what year it was. It was just where we went through what everything was, like named every footwork and said, this is all the different footworks, these are all the different hand postures, and this is the base layer of self-defense. But I can talk more to that at another time. Right. I think that's quite a lot for now. It'll be very interesting to see the feedback on Wednesday. I know one person asked for a few more examples. Again, I think it's better to wait for Wednesday for that. And the last thing, sorry, I want to talk about was where this goes. So disengage, engage, and I said Shasta, there's a play between those two things. Okay, what you will see Gurudev do at a higher level, which is where he's been operating for a long time now, you don't see a difference. And that's the point. The point is to learn this really well so that it does become, all these separate elements all become one thing. And then this idea of there's a disengaged mode and engaged mode, there's this type of structure or that type of structure. The master knows how to massage that into one, you see. All I'm trying to present here is to say, we've got to learn all these things absolutely strictly with discipline and not rush through them and try not to assume too many things. And if we learn them properly, then we'll be better able to put it back together. Okay. So I know there's really good questions. I know you will know things that I'm not mentioning on purpose, like the 3 strike minimum, the 2.5 strikes. It's because I'm working towards that aim. I can't really start there yet. Okay, but I'll leave it there. There's quite a lot there. There's plenty to reflect upon. Hopefully you've still got plenty to work with, and yeah, Wednesday should be a better time to pick up on this. Okay, thank you very much.